Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Angus,
And my name is Dan.
and we're here to do a review of Game Week 41. Um, first it felt like, sort of the normal game week after the big double. Um, it felt like the first normal game week in a while, even though it wasn't really. Although I guess time wise it was. But how did Game Week 41 go for you, Dan?
Yeah, it went quite well for me. Got 78 minus 4. I had Mitrovic as captain for 4 points. Johnson vice captain. Spence 8. Zamora 8. Gibbs White 7. Keenan Davis, I brought him as part of my minus 4, 11. But probably the main goal scorer was Danny McNamara from from Millwall, scoring his first two goals and getting 18 points. So yeah, it's turned into a memorable week for me in Gaffer. So yeah, and I basically just pretty much climbed back to where I was after the boosts were paid last week, and I obviously dropped. So I'm up to 148th. Um, yeah, good game week for me.
Yeah, not quite as good for me, but still a decent game week. Green Arrow, which is what really matters here. Like you say, made it's similar for me. Made up most of my Red Arrow from game week 40. 63 points. Took me back up to 82nd. I had Travers 6, Toffolo 5, Spence 8, McNair 4, Gibbs White 7, Vyman 5, captained Brennan Johnson, which was 20, and then I had Carvalho and Wilson and Solanke and Mitrovic for blanks. Mitrovic as vice captain. Um, so yeah, decent week. Like I say, the big thing for me was making back up most of the red arrow that I had in game week 40. And yeah, just looking forward now. Obviously we're really in the home stretch, but looking forward to the sort of the weekend and hopefully sort of push on. I'm not sure what the target is at this point, but I'm sort of over setting targets. Every time I set a target for myself, I seem to go backwards. So if I don't set myself a target, hopefully it'll go the other way. But we'll get into sort of reviewing the games from game week 41. Um, and the first one we've got is Forest 2, Birmingham nil. So Dan, talk to us about this one.
Yeah, I think it was just a professional performance by Forest. Recently, we've seen Forest score threes and fours, but this was just a professional 2-0 performance. Davis got the first goal, which was nice for me considering I brought him in. Johnson with the assist, um, and obviously Davis being on loan from Villa celebrated in front of the Birmingham fans, which you got to love that shithousery. And then it second half, just a corner from Garner and McKenna scored, made it 2-0, and then they took off their front three and replaced them with another front three, and so they're resting for the Luton game, which is what they've been doing um, recently. So yeah, just a solid performance by Forest. I'm currently on Davis, Johnson, and Spence, and I think you really need to be on three at the minute. I don't know what you think, Angus.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to say you need to be on three from any team, but they're in the similar sort of category we've given to other teams where you need to be on at least two. Like, you can argue about the third, but you need to be on at least two, I reckon, at this point. Davis was one I looked at this week. I ultimately went elsewhere, which, well, it would have been better if I'd been on Davis, but it wasn't the worst. But yeah, I think he's, most people now will be looking at Johnson and Spence. If you haven't already got Johnson and Spence, you're looking to get Johnson and or Spence. Davis, I think, is a good third. I think you could also make an argument for someone like Garner as
Yeah, he's
well.
on set pieces, isn't he? I
Yeah.
think.
Um, and as we've talked about, when it gets to sort of the end, particularly for those with boosts, you might want the goalkeeper, whoever it is by that point. But I think it looks like it's going to be Brice Samba sort of keeping the spot now. But that's the only other one. But yeah, you need to be on at least two at this point. I reckon they're going well. They did well again in this game, and they're in terms of Gaffr, they're basically returning every game. I had Johnson captain, and obviously that went to plan for me. But yeah, it's very tough to argue against them at this point. They're pushing hard. They'll almost certainly finish in the playoffs at this rate. I think they're going to put the pressure on Bournemouth for second. I know we'll talk about Bournemouth in a bit, who will probably have just enough of a head start to still finish in the automatic places. But I think Forest are going to put quite a bit of pressure on them at this rate. They're very sort of consistent at the moment as well, and I think it helps that they're basically able to select pretty much the same team each game. There's no real reason to drop players. I know Frenchie in our chat was complaining about some Forest fans wanting Zinkernagel left out, which I don't really understand. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, they don't really need to make changes. They've got a bit more depth again as well, and a ability to rotate those guys where they will need to for the odd game or two coming up when they've got sort of some games in quick succession. But having the likes of Graben, Lolly, Surridge is there as well, Mighton. That's all you're going to get on Surridge. Surridge is also there. But
Yeah,
Mighton is another option they've got as well. Like, I think they're at a decent point, and they may get Cook and Lowe back before the end of the season. Particularly if they're going to end up in the playoffs, that would be big for them if they have them back for the playoffs. But yeah, I was really impressed with Forest. I think that they did well in this one. But we'll move on to the next game we had, which was Huddersfield 2, Luton 0. I didn't manage to watch this one, so Dan, I'm going to leave this one all up to you.
yeah. As I said to you off off the pod, both teams were trying to draw it, and somehow Luton managed to lose it. Um, it was two um, evenly teams. There weren't much in it in first half. Um, Luton finally started Sonny Bradley. We kept the five at the back with Fred still at right wing back with Bree playing right sided centre back. Midfield three was Pelly, Lansbury, and Campbell, and the front two were Cornick and Adebayo. Um, for Huddersfield, it was quite interesting. They were quite fluid at times. It looked like it was four at the back, but Jonathan Hogg was dropping in at times to make it a back three. Um, One thing I did find interesting was Sorba Thomas played left wing, where I've normally seen him play right wing, and I think this was because of Fred Onyedinma and James Bree. I think they viewed that as the weakness. Um, but yeah, it was a pretty even game, and then we switched off after we made a substitution, and Russell scored a goal, whether he meant it or not. I'm not convinced he did, but it went in. And then we were pushing, got a penalty, which was a correct decision, but Adebayo missed it, and then we were just going gun ho. They got a set piece. It was a bit sloppy from us. So yeah, it was two basic mistakes by us, but it's looking good for Huddersfield. I think they're probably definitely going to get in the playoffs now. Luton is more 50-50. Um, Injuries not helping. Pelly went off. Lansbury went off. Um, so yeah, to be honest, I'd seriously consider getting rid of Luton players. Like I got rid of Naismith. I think you're okay maybe for Bree just because he's on set pieces, but Adebayo I'd get rid of. I think there's probably better options. He'll probably score two or three before the end of the season, but yeah, I don't know what you think about Luton players in general.
I'm not opposed to them. Obviously, I made the move to come off Adebayo this week. It could have burned me, particularly obviously having the penalty, but I felt it was a move worth making. I think one or two of the defenders, like if you're on Bree and Naismith, I wouldn't be rushing to sell. But if you're on the double up, I would probably be rethinking that. Like I've got Naismith, and I'll probably stick with Naismith. There'll be times when I bench him, like this weekend, like this game week. But I'd probably be rethinking if I was on the double defense now, particularly with them both playing it. I mean, I know you said Naismith's stepped into midfield
Yeah.
in this one, but with Bree back at centre back, um, that probably lessens his appeal a little bit as well.
Although I think Bree is much more likely to be on corners still. What was interesting is when Snodgrass came on, Naismith wasn't on as many corners because obviously Snodgrass is a left footer. Um, I don't know if you're looking at anyone from Huddersfield. I thought Toffolo was good. Interesting. Pippa played um, and looked lively for Huddersfield, but I'm not sure if he's nailed. They could bring back Turton, I think. So once again, it's a shame Thomas is a striker because he very good delivery from set pieces, but we've known that all season. But it's
Yeah,
just don't really want him as a striker.
yeah. No, I'm on Toffolo still, and I'm fine with him, even though he's more expensive. If I bench him, I bench him. Like I benched a lot of Toffolo points, but
Yeah,
started him this time. But which was better given that my decision was between him and Naismith. So I gained three
yeah,
points in that one. So that one works out. But yeah, I mean it's difficult with them, particularly because we sort of talk about not focusing too much on the doubles that are coming up. I mean obviously there's 44, 45. It's just two teams, but like Huddersfield's run isn't sort of amazing. It's not sort of terrible, but it's not amazing either. And so I just think, I wouldn't necessarily be looking to pile in. But if you've got someone like a Toffolo, even if you've got someone like a Thomas, that's fine. Nichols obviously is different. He's one that you're quite happy to have, but yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to them, but they're doing well and they'll probably finish in the playoffs at this rate. I think they've probably built up enough of a cushion that something would have to go quite wrong for them to not finish in the playoffs. That's not saying it can't, but it would take that sort of thing, I think, at this point.
yeah. I agree.
But we'll move on to our next game. Speaking of something going quite wrong, Fulham 1, Coventry 3. Um, yeah, talk to us about this one.
Yeah, this is just a typical. We've got a few of these games throughout the season where one team just seems to have the upper hand, and it seems like Coventry have that over Fulham 3-1. Although um, Fulham did give Coventry two goals, plus they scored an own goal. But a goal and assist again for Callum O'Hare. He's getting up there with John Swift as the ultimate troll, especially when it comes to me this season. Had him for weeks, did nothing, got rid, and now he's scoring goals and assisting. I sold Victor this week to get Davis, and Victor scored. So just one of those risks you take, obviously, with Forest having more games than Coventry probably work out in the long run having Davis. Um, but yeah, it was just quite an end-to-end game. Um, Fulham hit the bar through Cabano and got unlucky on another day. They win the game if they're not quite as sloppy as the back. Um, I'm on Wilson and Mitrovic. I'm at the point with Fulham where I'm not going to add that third, which I thought I might do. I think I'm just going to leave it at those two. I have thought about maybe coming off Wilson, but it's probably not worth it just until they've sewn up the title. Coventry, I I have more. Got rid of Victor. I don't hate some of their players, but I think they've got quite an interesting run. They've got Birmingham, Bournemouth, West Brom, Huddersfield, Stoke. So that's quite a tricky run, I'd say. Um, I'm not sure I'd bring any players in, to be honest. I don't know about your views on Fulham and Coventry's assets.
Yeah, I mean Fulham. I think it's one of those tough things where they did for a long time on Sunday. They did everything but score. They hit the woodwork. Moore came out with some good saves, narrowly missing chances. Um, it's different to the first time they lost to Coventry, where they were just really poor and they were barely in it. Where this time, they'll probably feel a little bit hard done by, but at the same time, they were just sloppy enough that that Coventry were then able to make them pay. Um, I'm on the Fulham triple up. I've been debating coming off one of them for a while. I've had other things to do. It's sort of the rest of the time. I might just sort of leave it for the moment, but I don't mind people sort of looking to come off Fulham players. I probably wouldn't be coming off Mitrovic, although I know one of the people in our chat, Alex FPL Odyssey, sold Mitrovic for Piero this weekend, which you know
What a move!
it doesn't get much better than
No,
um, it's something you can do. I mean, obviously, people are talking in FPL at the moment about whether you sell Mo Salah. It feels a similar sort of vibe as to whether you sell Mitrovic. There are potential reasons for it, but it's just you're going to have to be brave to do it. Quite apart from anything else, Wilson, I think you probably can get away with selling. It's not a problem to keep, but you probably can get away with selling. Um, Carvalho for me, I don't really see the point. He's so cheap. Like it's not like he's sort of the other ones. Part of the reason would be sort of to free up funds. Where Carvalho, I'm not actually like I'm probably going to have to go up from him if I sell him. So
yeah.
like he wouldn't be a problem. I think if you're on someone like a Nico Williams, that's probably fine too. Um, Coventry, like you say, it's tough at the moment. And they're sort of that you can predict a lot of the players, but there is a little bit of rotation based on sort of who's available. So it's not even necessarily really rotation, particularly defensively. There's been an element of sort of like whoever's fit gets on the pitch, um, with losing a couple of guys at the back. If you had Victor, that you can probably keep him and he'll tick over fine, but I think there's other interesting striker options. We talked about a number of them on the last pod, and I do think that the same thing applies. It's there are options around which make it potentially worthwhile selling him. Moore is still perfectly fine. A lot of people will still have value in him, and there's no issue there. But I probably wouldn't be looking to go into Coventry at this point. Certainly. We will move on though, and the next game we have is Sheffield United nil, Bournemouth nil. I think it was quite interesting for a 0-0 personally, but yeah, talk to us about this one, Dan.
Yeah, so a couple of key lineup news was still no Sharp for Sheffield United. Um, and Dembele started for Bournemouth ahead of Anthony. Um, most of the key in chances and incidents occurred with Gibbs White involved. Missed two one-on-ones, and then should have had a penalty. Like it's such a bad decision. I even when I saw it live, I was like, "Well, that's a penalty," and somehow the ref just didn't give it. Um, Bournemouth were very lucky to win this. Not to win, to draw this. So yeah, as a Luton fan, I was quite happy because, because Sheffield United are still just behind. But yeah, I did debate getting rid of Gibbs White, and then I watched this match and I realised you can't get rid of him. He's basically playing up front, so he's involved in everything that Sheffield United does. They do need Sharp back because you get the feeling if Sharp would have had one of those one-on-ones, he probably scores one of them and they win the game. So Bournemouth, they were pretty much non-existent in this game. I don't know what they were trying to do. It was just I can't remember them having a decent chance throughout the whole match. I'm on Solanke. I know there was talk about getting rid of Solanke, which is quite a hard decision considering he is going to have two games more than some of the players you're going to bring in. Zamora went off injured, and it looks like he's going to be out for a while. So that might be my chance for this week, probably getting rid of Zamora. I don't know what you thought of the game, Angus.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't manage to get to watch many of the games this game week, but I did watch this one. I was far more impressed by Sheffield United than Bournemouth. I wish Gibbs White could have stuck one of those chances away, or they'd got the penalty, particularly to further my Scott Parker bottle job agenda. Which I think, to be honest, the issue for me is you take out that Huddersfield game and you struggle to find many good performances in there for a while.
Yeah,
Um, and that's the problem, that Huddersfield game is increasingly looking like the exception. Um, but fair play to those who went off Solanke. I mean, I had no thoughts about putting an armband on him or anything like that this weekend, which I guess then raises the question about spending that much on a guy that there are going to be weeks where you're not even going to contemplate.
but we know the run.
Yeah,
Like I haven't looked at it, but are you really going to captain him that often? I'm not sure, and then maybe it is the right decision to get rid, but it comes back to he does have two more games than a lot of apart from Keenan Davis
yeah.
from
Yeah, I
Forest,
think for
really.
me, the key is going to be working out what I would do with those funds. Like, I think if you have something else that you can do in another position, if you move him to a Davis, or to another sort of cheaper forward, it's about what you would be able to do with that funds. Like those funds, like just trying to think hypothetically, if it got, like, say you really wanted Jed Wallace, like Millwall
Yeah,
have a decent run. Say you really decided you wanted Jed Wallace and you had to sell Dominic Solanke to do that. That's not the worst idea to me. Like, if that's your move, I can understand that. But I think you have to be doing it for something. And I know that
yeah,
a few of the people that were talking about selling Solanke this week, or sold Solanke this week, it was to do something else with those funds, and I think that's all right. I don't think you should just be looking at it and like, oh, I should sell Solanke because he hasn't scored or whatever. That doesn't make as much sense to me. I've got Travers. I'll stick with Travers through. That's one where
yeah.
their
That's
extra
fine.
games is great to have the goalkeeper. Like, he's and he made a couple of big saves in this game. It was a very sort of divisive moment for me. I still wanted the Gibbs White goal, but as someone on Gibbs White and Travers, it was sort of,
Yeah,
it's it was a little bit sort of like, well, I guess I win either way here. But I think Travers only made two saves in the end, so I didn't even get that out of him. But no, I'm not sure how Gibbs White came out of this game without a return. And I tweeted about it. I don't understand the penalty call. The referee's looking straight at it. He's like 5 yards away. It's so clearly a foul. I thought it was a foul real time. You see it back, and it's even more of a foul. So I think Sheffield United will feel hard done by on that. I also wanted to mention Filip Juremovic in the back three. Obviously, there's not going to be sort of attacking returns there, but I thought he looked good. I think it's big for them with Basham still out, having a right-sided centre back, because obviously Egan's
Yeah,
right-footed, but he can only really play in the middle. So just having a right-sided centre back, I think, it helped the balance of the team. And for those who are still looking at potentially getting into the Sheffield United defence, he's that little step cheaper as well. I think he's 5.5.
yeah.
And so if you're
He'll
looking to get into sort of potential clean sheets, he's not the worst one. You're not getting him for his finishing, as was
no,
shown
that's what I was
in
about to
added
mention.
time.
We actually
You're not
ended up
getting
with a
finishing
no.
from him.
No,
But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those where Bournemouth are probably the happier of the two with the point, both because of where they are compared to where Sheffield United are, and because if if a team deserved to win it, it was Sheffield United. But no, I thought it was an interesting game, and it's two teams that are right up there, and two teams that we still can be looking at assets from. So yeah, I don't hate sort of a lot of the assets. I would be careful. The other note I would say on um, Bournemouth with automatically assuming that Leif Davis will come in at left back, because obviously with the options they've got, Adam Smith is very comfortable sort of going over and playing at left back, which when they've also got Stacey and Laird
yeah.
means that it won't necessarily be Davis. So I'd just be a little bit cautious on that one. But we'll move on to the next game, which was Millwall 4, Barnsley 1. Obviously a great one for you with McNamara, but talk to us about this one, Dan.
Yeah, I think recently Mill have been, well, the last couple of months have been quite good. They've seemed to got a balance to the way they want to play, which is not just normally they've just been quite solid and hitting teams on the counter or relying on set pieces, but they now seem to offer a bit more going forward. Burke started up front with a Phobe with Wallace in behind, and it was that McNamara with 2 goals, and I was watching Jeff Stelling, and they kept going to the game, and the first one went in, and I was like, yes, I haven't benched his points. I'll take his goal. And then the second one, it's just one of those moments you have in like fantasy games where someone who's not highly owned, who you've I don't know, you've sort of taken a gamble on, and it sort of comes through. Like you had it earlier on in the season with McGree, and when you get one of those, it just feels so good.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was quite nice because he's had like obviously not a lot of returns, but the odd clean sheet and bonus, and it's been on my bench like second or third. But obviously, I'm going to play him against Barnsley, and for him to score 2 goals was just really good. So, um, but yeah, Mill will just look a completely different side. Like they look quite good against Luton, so I can see why they've been scoring goals and causing teams problems. Um, we then what was interesting was there was no returns from Wallace, which there was a few people in the Gaffr group couldn't quite believe that Mill would score 4 and Wallace hadn't got any. Um, but there were also Oliver Burke and Bennett Kofobi, the 2 other strikers, did get goals. So they seem to scoring throughout the team. Obviously, Bradshaw was rested this week. So yeah, they're looking strong. They're only 4 points off the playoffs, which I don't know. They've got a decent run, but they're I'd say if you're looking at the playoff race, I'd probably say it goes down to Millwall. So they've still got a chance. Their next game is against Preston, who you think don't have anything to play for. So if Millwall get the first goal, maybe they win. So might be another game where McNamara returns, so I'll probably have to play him, and I now.
Yeah, quite possibly. No, I was quite impressed. I mean, we've talked about, I've mentioned a couple of times actually Benica Phobe,
Yeah,
and I thought, he was very good in this one. His little flick to set up the cross for Malone on the second
yeah.
goal, that was great. Like, and then obviously he got his goal as well. I think he's a very interesting option, and you've got McNamara, who I think is interesting. Malone, I think, is still a good option. Jed Wallace. I do think you can do much worse than some of these Millwall assets. Sort of down the stretch. Um, Obviously, a very good finish on the other side from Rommel Palmer.
Yeah,
But you're not really going to be looking at Barnsley assets at this point. They haven't conceded a lot too many times. I think part of that may well be down to Hellick's absence. He's obviously massive
yeah.
for them at the back, literally and figuratively. But yeah, I mean, I say that, but they play Swansea, Peterborough, then double, then Preston. Like, there might be some points in there.
You got your man Bassi,
Oh, he's not
and
leaving
you.
my team. That's for sure. um, I finally I wasn't punished for benching him this week. That's the one upside. um, but yeah, certainly interesting one, and I do think we probably should have given. I mean, we probably should have given Millwall a little bit more credit, but all along almost for, but we have given them a lot more credit than a lot of people, so you know it's sort of a balance there. But we'll move on to the next game. Speaking of teams we've been harsh on, West Brom 1, Stoke 3. Dan,
This
talk
is
to us
like
about this
the
one.
this is like the derby, isn't it? We've both had words to say about both of these
Yeah,
teams. Carroll and Dean Garner started up front for West Brom again. Stokes seemed to decide this week it had to be a three at the back. So youngster Forrester came in at centre back, um, and probably like two unpredictable sides. Stoke won it 3-1. Um, a comedy own goal for Jake Livermore. Um, and then we then had Jacob Brown and Baker getting goals again. Who we but you mention every episode Jacob Brown.
yeah,
Never thought about getting him in, and I've got Lewis Baker, who I just keep benching, and he just keeps scoring. He keeps benching, and I know Stoke have Bristol City, so I'm playing Baker this week because it's Bristol City. So we all know what's going to happen. Baker's not going to score. Um, for West Brom, Callum Robinson came on for Mount and got a goal, but yeah, we all know the next match West Brom's going to turn up for, and it's that Forest match in a week or two. So oh, I wouldn't say to get any players from these two in. I've got Baker. I'm happy. I'm going to bench his points numerous times for the rest of the season. If you've got Townsend, that's fine. I think. I don't know if you want to add anything, Angus.
no, not really. Like you said, you take my thing about sort of, or you said about me sort of recommending Jacob Brown.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, it just keeps doing the job. They've got, Bristol City and QPR in the next three games. Like, if you're looking around for midfielders, Jacob Brown is right there.
yeah.
West Brom, I wouldn't touch with a barge pole. They're the one random win again. Like they beat sort of Fulham and Bournemouth, and apart from that, have just been shite.
But that's why I keep saying that. Well, Easter Monday they've got Forest
Yeah,
away to Forest. So I'm putting that on my coupon.
you might as
West
well.
Brom.
Like at this rate, it's it's what we expect.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, there's not much in this game from a Gaffr point of view aside from like a Jacob Brown or a Lewis Baker, maybe a
and he
Townsend. But even at this point, are you really sort of investing that much money in a player from
yeah.
West Brom? Like you might as well sort of divert those funds elsewhere. Um, but we'll move on to the next game, which is Middlesbrough nil, Hull 1. Dan, talk to us about this one.
So no Jones again. Um, so that's two games now they've had without Isaiah Jones. No points. So I might be a bit harsh considering they did play Fulham in the first game,
Mm.
but Connolly and Balogun were back up front. Um, but Hull, just another great bit of play by Lewis Potter. Um, and I don't know if we've discussed it on the pod, but we've definitely discussed previously, is Lumley the worst goalie in the league? Because um, he has cost at least 4 or 5 goals this season that I can remember.
Yeah, I mean,
This was
we, we
terrible.
we we have the whole thing with me and Borough this season and everything, but I genuinely believe Middlesbrough would be comfortably inside the playoffs if they had a league average goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's definitely bottom 4 or 5
I mean, he
easily.
he basically leaves it.
Well, he jumps over it.
Like
I don't know.
he almost holds his arm back. He holds his arm in like at his side. It's like you're a goalkeeper. Use your arm. Use your hand. That's what it's there for. um, he's just so bad. Um, I mean, I struggle to believe that nothing they've got there is better than him. But
but when Wilder came in, he tried Daniels
yeah,
and then had to go back. Like Wilder doesn't want Lumley.
no,
He's going to bring in two goalies next year.
yeah.
Whatever, I'm pretty sure of
Like
it.
whichever division they're
Um,
in, they will have a new goalkeeper next season.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
absolutely certain.
what I will say with this is this wasn't like a lucky result. Like Middlesbrough with the data did not deserve to win it. It probably should have been a draw, but the whole scored through an error basically. And Honeyman did have a shot cleared off the line as well.
Yes.
So like this wasn't like Middlesbrough absolutely battered Hull and then Hull went down the other end. It was probably should have been a draw, which Hull won.
Yeah,
Do
and I
you-
mean, there were a couple of obviously changes for Middlesbrough which probably affected them a little bit. Um, I mean, I think I said in our chat, Aaron Connolly might be a decent player if he could stay on side. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, he had the goal disallowed for offside. I think he was, I lost count of the number of times it was sort of an update or like a promising move, and Aaron Connolly was offside. Um, I mean, he's not that great at the other stuff, but it'd just be like if he could sort of better understand how offside works, it might be helpful. But yeah, not great for Middlesbrough. I know we were debating this. I personally think they're dropping too many points against sort of the worst teams in the league. Um, in terms of the playoff race, and I think they may well be. We talked about one of the good teams will miss out. I think it may well be them at this point. They've got a couple of tough games in the run-in as well. I like them, and I hope they prove me wrong. But at the moment, I just feel like they drop too many points,
Yeah.
and they're putting themselves in an increasingly tough position with those dropped points. In terms of Gaffr, it's the same people. It's McNair's your main one. Obviously Jones was out of this one. I still don't hate the idea of Balogun, but maybe a Dyke steal, but you're not really going there. I think Hull, if you've got Lewis Potter, he's still perfectly fine to own. I don't mind if you've got Ingram. I sold him, but I think
Yeah.
if you've got him, he's perfectly fine. I probably wouldn't be rushing to get any of them or to hold any of the other ones though. We'll move on to the next game, which was Swansea 2, Derby 1. The sort of Joel Piero show, which particularly when you and I were debating
Oh
Obafemi
God.
versus Piero. It was one of my few wins this week. I have to sort of mention it. Yeah, we were when we were discussing forward options. I was very much sort of touting Piero. Dan was saying Obafemi. In this case, I was right. It's all about being right. It's all about telling everyone the times when you are right. But Dan, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I think we've seen recently that Swansea's style of play is starting to work. They've won 6 out of the last 9, unbeaten in the last 5. Um, this formation of Piero and Obafemi playing with Wolf at left wing back and Patterson floating in and around seems to be working, especially going forward. Um, Obviously, 2 goals from Piero. There were lots of refereeing decisions in this, penalties. The Derby goalie could have been sent off. He basically wiped out a player when he was clean through, and somehow nothing happened. But Derby could have had a penalty in towards the end. Um, Derby did score through a penalty. Lawrence again. But what really killed Derby was the first 20 minutes. They just couldn't cope with Swansea's press, and they just kept giving the ball away to Swansea, and it was just costing them. But yeah, we've said about Piero the whole season. He's a good striker, and I'm really interested to see what happens next season with Swansea, because now Martin has got players with the style of play. If he can keep these group of players and maybe add maybe a couple of defenders, I think they're going to be towards the playoffs. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it's really starting to come together in the past few games under Martin, what he's been trying to get them to do, which we knew was going to take time, particularly with how soon before the season he took over, and the sort of the sort of time you need to bed in this sort of system, which isn't ideal when you're playing games at the same time. But yeah, I think they're one of the more interesting ones to watch going into next season, particularly because when we're looking at things like pricing as well, where they could potentially be a playoff team, but at the same time they're very mid-table this season. So that could be interesting. But I think at this point for the remainder of the season, a Piero or Obafemi, like I think both of them are decent options. I don't hate Patterson as an option. I think that they'll still be the three in attack the majority of the time. And then Cyrus Christie is the other one always with them that I'd be looking at. I don't mind any combination of them really. On the other side, Derby. The big thing will be obviously with the preferred bidder having been named, will be actually getting this over the line. I know there's been some question marks raised over him and whether he can actually sort of get the takeover done. But that's sort of the main thing for them at this point, and getting done quickly as well. This
What,
season,
what was
league wise, is over for them really.
yeah? What's your view on Patterson? Because he does seem to be getting subbed off. He was subbed off about the 60th minute this game week. Obviously, they got two good fixtures, so you can't really get rid. But it's just
Yeah, I think there's an
like,
element of caution with him. Is the one thing I would say.
yeah,
Obviously, he had the injury, so I think just before the break, but I think there is that sort of element of caution where for them there's probably the greater priority that he's available for the games to come. Um, so I wouldn't be too concerned with him, even if you're getting sort of 65 minutes out of him. He's the sort of player
yeah,
that can do damage in that sort of time. Um, so I wouldn't mind it too much. If it becomes even more of a trend, over the next sort of couple of games, particularly ahead of 44, where people are looking at, potentially playing boosts and obviously in the double. If in the next couple he's still getting taken off early, then it might worry me a little bit. But other than that, I wouldn't be too concerned at this point personally. But we'll move on to our next game, which is Blackburn 1, Blackpool 1. Dan, what do you think about this one?
yeah. So Lenehan and Brereton Diaz was back in the starting 11, two massive players for them. Dak was still on the bench, where I think he's got to just start playing him now. I know he's coming back from an injury, but you just hear it pretty much whenever he gets subs on, they just look so much more better, whether he's creating or having shots on goal or scoring. They scored Route One, Gallagher goal from Kaminsky assist from the goalie. Um, for Blackburn, they made a lot of changes. So whether they're testing their squad out for next season, obviously they don't have much to play for now. Bowler didn't start, and with all the speculation around him being there next year, I'm wondering if they might just phase him out of the side, which might be a bit problematic because they do have the game in 44, and although he is their best player, if he's not going to be there, what is the point of them keep playing in him? But yeah, that's basically it from that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brereton Diaz obviously, he didn't get the goal. He had a couple of chances. Lenahan back in defence will be big for them down the stretch. But yeah, I don't hate someone looking at Brereton Diaz or even Dak. Like you say, he's probably going to have to play, but there's probably not too much I'd be looking to invest in on the Blackburn side. The Blackpool side, obviously they do have the double coming up. I'm going to mention the same guy again. Obviously goal scorer in this one, Ekpateta.
To be honest, I had to. I got rid of Naismith and I had to go down, and it was between Ekpateta and Bagan from Cardiff, and it just looked like attacking return. There was more upside side for Bagan, and obviously Ekpateta scored this week, but I wouldn't have played him anyway,
Yeah,
so I haven't lost it.
yeah, but yeah, I think it's two interesting sides, but a result that like it hurts Blackburn in terms of the race for the playoffs. Blackpool, like you say, they're clearly not going to give up. They gave Blackburn a decent game here, and they're clearly
Yeah,
not going to sort of give up. But there will be, I guess, maybe a slightly more difficult element in terms of sort of predicting who's going to play. I don't think we saw the bowler omission coming, but I think, like you say, that could potentially be a logical reason for not playing him.
yeah.
But we'll move on to the next game we've got. We've got three more games to go still. We've got Preston 2, QPR 1. What have you got on this one, Dan?
Um, I'm to be honest, I didn't know which way this was going to go, and we're at the point with QPR where they just look like they're done. They just want the season over with. there's going to be a decision in the summer about Warburton. I'm pretty sure of it. Um, he went four at the back this week. He's just trying anything and anything. The next step would normally be to change the goalie, but they're on their fifth goalie already. So that so I they had to play. What was it, Mahoney, the young 19-year-old. Um, so that they're just struggling at the minute. Andre Gray did score a penalty, but Preston are looked a bit more better. They obviously Archer scored again. That's 7 goals now for Archer, and it's going to be interesting to see if Preston get him back, or if he does go out on loan, does he go to maybe a top six side? It's
Yeah,
basically
I
it,
mean,
Angus.
from a Gaffr point of view, he's the one.
Yeah,
I know Gerard said he'll get a chance to sort of prove himself in pre-season at Villa. So it'd
yeah,
be interesting to see what comes of that, which suggests that maybe Keenan Davis will be off, maybe sort of permanently to Forest, maybe off somewhere else. So
yeah.
we'll see there. But yeah, and I know our QPR correspondent Chris Hermitage had said to me beforehand, he was like, "No, like we're borderline targetable at this point," and it already seems to be bearing out. He said that to me sort of before their last game, but it already seems to be bearing out. So yeah, I feel sorry for Murphy Mahoney. This was a Kieran Westwood injury in the warm up.
Yeah,
So you can't really make it up at this point. But
they've
yeah,
now played as many goalies as Luton have this season.
yeah. Although Luton had an emergency loan in there.
Yeah,
You know, even the guy that QPR signed in off the street got injured. Like that's the point it's reached for them. But yeah, QPR would be an avoid for me. They're it's spiraling at this point, and the goalkeeper situation doesn't help, but it's one small part of a much bigger issue really. But we'll move on to our next game, which is Bristol City 1, Peterborough 1. Dan,
I've
talk to us about this one.
not got much about this, Angus. I'm not going to lie. Semenyo was on the bench. Atkinson scored 2 in 2. Peterborough played a back four. Um, Clark Harris got another goal, so he's starting to score, but it's too late. I think I mentioned it'll be interesting to see if anyone does try and sign him. Um, and obviously Ward got the red card, which he was clicking through on goal. He had to, yeah, it was definitely a red. So yeah, just stay away from these teams. I know you brought in a striker for Bristol City.
Yes, after being sort of anti-Vyman the whole season, I brought him in as sort of a 1 week punt in this one. And fair play to him, he got me 3 bonus points. But yeah, it wasn't quite the sort of returns I was looking for from Andy Vyman this week. Um, I don't regret it. I wish I'd brought someone like Davis instead, but I probably, I was sort of looking around and I'd wanted to buy Brereton Diaz. I might have been saved from myself there, but I couldn't afford it. So I took the punt on Vyman, and it didn't quite work. But like I say, it's still a 5-pointer from this one, so it's not the end of the world. But he'll probably be moving on again for me. Not because I'm particularly offended by him, but it was just sort of part of the plan.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to our last game, which was Reading 1, Cardiff 2. Dan, do you have much on this one?
Not really, to be honest. Zhao scored again. And for Cardiff, like I mentioned, I did put in getting Bagan just because he was scoring or assisting. He didn't in this game. Doughty scored, and Volk scored quite a nice goal for the second. But yeah, I'm not really that interested in these two. It was only because I needed an enabler that I got a Cardiff player in, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got someone like John Swift, fine.
Yeah,
Like, if you've got someone like a Bagan or a Drama, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Other than sort of the goals, the other thing that I had down was that Volks' celebration was probably the most impressive thing in the game. The
Yeah, I
form on
thought
his the form on his flip.
yeah,
Um,
he obviously doesn't score enough because
yeah, I
I
didn't know
didn't
he
even
had that
know
in
he
his
could do
locker.
it.
So we'll get on to questions. Obviously, we've been going for nearly an hour already, but we'll get through your questions and then we'll do our predictions. Obviously, we were aiming to do more of a full sort of review tonight, so it will be a little bit longer. But yeah, so we'll start off. I've got a question here from Aaron Palace first. Having to retrieve this from elsewhere, so I'll get it out of the way first. He asked, which goalkeeper do you foresee getting the most points from now until the end of the season?
Oh God, probably I'm going to say Travers.
Yeah, I was going to say Travers purely because he's got more games.
Yeah, basically that.
Travers or Samba. But, I suppose technically if Travers were bad for a couple of games, Woodman might come in the same way Horvath might come in if Samba sort of dropped a clanger or two. But I think it's probably
Maybe
between those
some,
two, really.
maybe Barkowski from Millwall. Their
Yeah.
fixtures are quite good, and then Norman. I can see them maybe getting like 3 or 4 clean sheets.
Yeah, and I think I saw he's like the best penalty saving keeper in the division as well by
Yeah,
some margin. So there's always that possibility with him. But yeah, I'll go Travers in part just because of weight of fixtures. But yeah, so we'll get into the rest of the questions we've had. So first question I have here is from Petteri Annanen. He asked, is there any indication of rotation in Fulham assets after they do ensure promotion? Any known niggles or preparation for the next season could affect a lot in Gaffr if Harry Wilson or Mitrovic get rested in 2 or 3 games. So I know you've talked before about Mitrovic and breaking
yeah, he's not
the
getting
all-time
rested.
record. For the sort of first division. Don't think there's many sort of ongoing issues as such that would cause guys to be left out. I think we would have seen a bit more of it by now if that were going to be the case. The
You
closest
might
thing really is that Tom Cairney keeps picking up issues, so the midfield spot changes a little bit, but you weren't really going to have Tom Cairney anyway, so.
you might get it like maybe like the last game of the season if like they release who they're getting rid of, they might give like a long-term player maybe a game, the last game or something.
Yeah, I
But
don't even think they have many of those at this point. Just thinking about it, that they're almost at that point where
like,
um,
are they going to phase out Carvalho?
I don't think so because I think they would have done it already.
Yeah,
Essentially,
they've not won it yet, though, have
no,
they?
and I think they'll want to win the division, which means you might not get a clinch until sort of about
Yeah,
3 games to go. Um,
if they want to rest all their players for when they play Luton, I would be very grateful.
um, but yeah, so I think that there's not too much to be scared of there really. Obviously, I think the bigger issue will become sort of whether they're still as motivated, particularly what once they get clinch automatic promotion. I think there'll still be the incentive of winning the division. So you probably
But because of how far they're ahead, that might happen like one game after the other.
yeah, but you're probably looking at about 3 games to go by the time they do that.
Yeah,
At which point it's probably not worth it at that point, essentially. But
I,
that's something
I,
to address down the line, I guess.
I still think I wouldn't be bringing any in.
No, but I wouldn't be rushing to get rid of the
Yeah,
likes of Wilson and Carvalho. Not Carvalho. Well, I mean Carvalho, unless they show he's not going to play. But the problem is, there was a report today in terms of the player they're going to sign to replace him. So they're not really gaining anything by playing someone else in that spot because
yeah, that's true.
they're not going to be playing the role next year either. So they might as
Yeah,
well play Carvalho. so I think he'll probably play Wilson, Mitrovic until they clinch the league. They'll probably still keep going, so I wouldn't worry about it on that front. The next question we've got is from FPL Red Arrow Robin. He said, thinking ahead to maximise double game week 44 and Forest's push, Wallace to Spence. I guess I'm not sure which Wallace that is, either Murray or Lee. I'm guessing Murray, but
Murray, I'd say.
but either way, Wallace to Spence, Swift to Timon, and Adebayo to Davis for a -4. He said he's got the exact money. Would you do that?
I would do Adebayo. I probably would.
Yeah.
I think you need Spence and Spence definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love losing Swift, but to get to Spence and Davis, I'd probably sacrifice him if that's what it takes. Like, I think that's fine personally. Ron Mukherjee has asked us the best captain options for game week 42.
Mitrovic, they got Derby.
Yeah.
Gibbs White against Reading. I don't hate. I suppose you've probably got to throw Johnson in against Luton, although I'd be disappointed if they won comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess you've got to throw in Brereton Diaz against Peterborough. In theory, like if you're wanting to take a punt, I think someone like him. The other one I'm going to say is Joel Pirro against Barnsley.
Yeah.
Or
Obafemi.
Yeah, or Obafemi. But I do think it's a bit more open this week, as we're sort of seeing there. You know, I mean, Bournemouth, they are playing Middlesbrough, but they're at home against Middlesbrough, and we know what Middlesbrough's away form has been like. So, there could be something there for them. So I think there are a few options around. Interestingly, FPL Commander has asked, would you advocate Swift to Garner or Adebayo to Davis for the upcoming fixtures?
Adebayo to Davis.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you were going to pick one of the two there, I'd rather make the move to Davis. Jamie has asked us, is there a double in 44? If so, can you tell me what to do? So no, there's no more double in game week 44. It's been cancelled. The teams that haven't played the games yet are just going to go without. Now, obviously, there is a lot of sort of questions around game week 44, and we do get why. But no, I can't tell you what to do. You'll probably do something else and ruin it anyway. So there's no point really. Niall Fairbrother has asked us, best Bournemouth defender and midfielder to buy. Can afford any of them.
I think defender's probably Smith.
Yeah, it seems like he's, whether it's right back or left back, it seems like he's going to play.
Yeah, I think Smith. Midfielder. Is it still Billing?
I'm going to say Christie.
Yeah.
I think he looks the most sort of like threatening in the attacking areas for them. He's obviously playing further forward than Billing, but I do think there's always going to be an element of frustration with him and sort of inconsistency in the returns. But he'd be the one I'd look midfielder wise. I agree with you on Smith for the defender as well.
Yeah.
FPL Buddy has asked us for the prep of double game week 44. Which are the players to look for? I feel like we've covered this quite a lot recently.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much more we can do on the players to look at for double game week 44. Definitely look at Barnsley attackers. Blackpool defenders. Um, yeah, Cardiff attackers definitely. Aaron Connolly, another one who looks like he's got a great double. And those are the ones I'd look at. No, in all seriousness, we've done quite a lot on obviously on sort of assets from each of the doublers recently, and we're probably not going to tell you about any players you don't already know about as well, in terms of options. Obviously, as it's getting closer, we know we're going to be talking more about it and everything, but I do think a lot of it is quite obvious at the moment, particularly with the likes of Fulham and Bournemouth and Forest and Middlesbrough all having doubles that week. It does
Yeah.
also kind of speak for itself, really. We did have one other question, which I have lost. I know it's from FPL How. Here we go. He said, "Guys, can you help me try and make the top 25? He's currently 47th. He has 2 boosts available. He used Goalfest in game week 40. He's got 1 free transfer, 0.9 in the bank. We're not going to tell you too much about specifics, because particularly for the audio, it doesn't work if we talk through sort of your team. He's got McNamara, Spence, McNair. He's got Wilson, Lewis Potter, Garner, Johnson, Billing, Mitrovic, Solanke, and he's benched all his Luton assets.
To be honest, I'd be selling them all, so maybe just get rid of all of them.
I mean, particularly on the double defence, that's probably where I'd be looking. We've talked about some of the teams to look at defensively. So I'd probably start off looking there, and I'd potentially look maybe at a goalkeeper change. He's got Everson in goal there. I'd potentially look at a goalkeeper change there as well.
He's got 2 boosts, so you've got to play Jeepers Keepers. You have to do that.
Yeah. Actually,
So,
I'd be looking to get to Jeepers Keepers probably in 45. You've got the 2 teams
yeah.
there that double. So you can use something else in 44 and then play Jeepers Keepers in 45 with Bournemouth and Forest.
His team's pretty set up, so probably midfield dynamos will probably be 44, I'm guessing.
Yeah, something like that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of help. We'll just quickly go through our predictions for each of the games for game week 42. They're all on Good Friday, so we'll run through them now. Obviously, as normal, giving you the side we think will win and the best asset from the game, or the result, sorry, because it can be a draw. So we start off with obviously a big one, Luton against Forest.
I'm going to go draw, and I'm going to go Spence.
I think Forest will edge it. It wouldn't surprise me if Luton got something out of the game. I just think Forest will edge it. I'm going to go with Spence as well. Next up, we've got Bournemouth against Middlesbrough.
Going Bournemouth, and I'm going to go Solanke.
I'm going Bournemouth. I'm going to go Christie. Birmingham against Coventry.
Coventry, O'Hare.
I'm going to say Coventry, and despite the fact that we've said you can sell him, I'm going to say Victor. Although I do think it would be big for Birmingham that Lyle Taylor's back, so that might make a difference, but I'm still going to say Coventry win that one. Hull against Cardiff.
Cardiff, and I'm going to go for Drama.
I'm going to say it's a draw, and I'm going to say Lewis Potter. Peterborough against Blackburn.
Draw. I'm going to go Clark Harris.
I'm going to go Blackburn, and I think this is when Brereton Diaz gets back on the board. Preston against Millwall.
I'm going Millwall. McNamara.
I'm going to go with a draw, and I'm going to say Jed Wallace. Sheffield United, Reading.
Sheffield United, Gibbs White.
Yeah, I'm going the
Don't
same.
overthink it.
Yeah, I'm going the same. Like you say, not overthinking it. Stoke against Bristol City.
Oh God, this is just saying Stoke, isn't it? We know what's happening here. I'm going Bristol City, Vyman.
Stoke, Jacob Brown. Swansea against Barnsley.
Swansea, Obafemi.
Swansea, Piero. Let's keep this going. West Brom, Blackpool.
Draw, Townsend.
Draw and Ekpeteta. Huddersfield against QPR.
Huddersfield, and I'm going to go for Danny Ward.
I'm going Huddersfield as well, and I'm going to say Toffolo. And Derby against Fulham.
Fulham, Mitrovic.
Yeah, I think the same. I'm going Fulham and Mitrovic. So that's all the games. Obviously, we've got this set of games on Friday, and then we've got game week 43 on Easter Monday. I'm not sure that we'll get a pod done in between, but we'll be sort of around to answer any questions. We've discussed a lot of the best assets anyway. That doesn't necessarily change between the two. But yeah, hit us up if you have any questions. We'll try and sort of help you out within reason. If it's sort of like, if it really is sort of, numerous people coming, what should I do with my team? There's only so much we can help. If you come armed with some potential ideas, then, it makes it much easier for us to give you advice. But yeah, thank you for listening. We'll let you know when we'll next be back. And yeah, enjoy the games. It's some important games there on Friday, and we'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Unbelievable!